Okay, so hopefully we're going to be live in a few seconds. If not now, I'm just confirming that we are live, and we are. G'day, welcome to the Extra Time podcast. It's a very special one. Boxy decided to ditch us, as you can see. He's actually in America right now with the crew, Dav, Simone, Bodie, and Boxy. How are we?
Very good.
Good, Woodsy.
Doing well, Woodsy.
Good evening from Las Vegas.
Now,
Swing State, Nevada.
Now, obviously, if you haven't been following along to Boxy's or the Extra Times Instagram channels, you've been going through quite a few sporting events, sporting venues. Talk us through how that's been just the last couple of days.
It's tough to comprehend, to be honest, mate. Myself and Dylan got off the plane and basically went straight to a minor league hockey game. So talking directly there, and as soon as you walk in, it just absolutely stretches your eyes wide open, and they stay wide open the whole time. Obviously, we were comparing that one to a VFL game. They had the Megatron going. There's about 1,000 people there, so sort of knocks you for six as soon as you get there. And yeah, there's nothing quite like it, and it looks better than it is on the TV. That's for sure.
Liam managed to get a free ride on a Zamboni on day one.
Oh, we
He was
saw
down
that.
on the
He
ice.
did a bit of
Big
that
screen.
thing.
Did do the Brizzler.
He did.
Okay.
We got on the big screen last night during college basketball as well, Woodsy. You'd be pleased to know.
Yes.
I saw
No,
the
he
welcome
kicked the field.
Homestead sign as well for the. Was it the hockey?
We're getting welcome wherever we go. We're very famous over here.
The
Woods.
red carpet is officially being rolled out.
They all know Extra Time.
So
Yeah.
where's Woodsy?
Where am I? I'm in my studio in Melbourne. Unfortunately, won't be able to join you, but I'm hopeful that the other half of the Extra Time crew that is in Melbourne, 2 years time. If you're watching this and you're wanting to go to the US, do the Holmes Glen Sports degrees. That's a little plug there. But what about yourself, Simone? What have you been up to?
Keeping an eye on these guys, Woodsy, keeping them out of trouble.
Uh,
It's just, I'm blown away. Like, everyone's, look, we have pretty much had a red carpet. Like, Forrest Griffin at the UFC, like, he's a Hall of Famer. So we went to the UFC Performance Center, and that was like, we're in the octagon with Forrest. Boxy was trying to take him on. It didn't end well, but we didn't show that footage.
I did kick the pill with him though, and yeah, I'm a pretty good
That
coach.
experience has been probably my highlight. Like, I love going there and seeing that in person. Was amazing experience. Davin missed that, and I won't go into detail as to why, but he was not at that event. But no.
And
What about
you
you,
can see
Cody?
that on Extra Time, but there's a rivalry for the chump off the trip.
And Boxy's just stepped up to the plate today. Didn't seem like anyone was going to be able to take the mantle off me, but Boxy certainly had a decent crack at it.
Trip's been insane so far. Just getting to go to like a whole bunch of different sport. Seeing ice hockey live. I guess I saw it as a kid about 12 years ago, but actually getting to experience it. You don't do sport the same in Australia. I love going to the footy, but not the same. And it's we're day 5, day 4 here, and it's like the rest of the trip's going to be insane, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the rest of it.
Well,
The
you-
games we've been to, we've been pretty lucky, and like the actual quality of them, like they haven't just been blowouts or anything. The Golden Knights game was 7 goals. There was a end of the second period buzzer beater, like literally in the last second of the period. Then there was a winner in overtime, like behind the back. It was incredible. So we've been pretty lucky there. Stadium's been great, but tours have been just as good. So we went to Allegiant Stadium, which Woodsy would know as a Broncos fan, not a too shabby of a stadium at all. It's absolutely world class, and the main thing for me is it's hard not to compare. But there's a lot of things over here that if we had them at our sporting contests, they wouldn't last long. So there's a nightclub at Allegiant Stadium, and you can buy $400 wine. You can sit within 2 meters of the players. So I don't think that would go well in the Collingwood area. But they're the comparisons you make. It's been great to see with my own eyes.
So where are you heading to in the next couple of days?
got a tour of the Silver Knights, which is the Golden Knights minor league team. We're going back to their training facility tomorrow. We've got a tour of that. And then tomorrow afternoon,
T-Mobile Arena.
yeah.
We're doing a tour of T-Mobile Arena tomorrow afternoon. And then we travel Thursday, Woodsy, and then Friday we're driving down to San Diego to do a tour of Petco Park, so the home of the San Diego Padres. And then we're seeing, this is my highlight for the trip, I think, is going to be Friday night. Friday night football. The Aztecs are playing New Mexico. And that's going to be massive. So we're expecting a massive crowd for that. And college football, I think, we saw the college basketball yesterday, so we're pretty lucky. But college football, I think, will be the next level.
The basketball, as Simone said, was incredible. So we were lucky enough to watch South Carolina women's who went on that 43-game streak. Welcome in, Kira and Alice. And their support, South Carolina, if you don't know, is on the other side of this country, and their support was like we were in South Carolina. Every single play, the whole place was erupting, so that was pretty cool. But I just love how on the weekend, as soon as Friday comes around, the colours come out everywhere. Everyone's in jerseys, and everyone, especially here in Vegas, everyone's putting a punt on and getting around the sport. It's really become a sporting mecca here. So it's pretty cool.
And look, tomorrow night, I'm planning on attending a little-known sport known as jousting here at the Excalibur Hotel. I don't know if anyone's going to join me for that, but I am pretty excited about that.
Surely, you're in Vegas. You've got to be putting bets on that.
We'll see. If there's a way to put a bet on, I'll put one on for you, Woodsy.
And we might even try and find some darts for you other boys. We'll let you know.
Yes, please.
Now,
get on it.
Joined by Doc from Back to the Future.
welcome in, Alice. How are we?
Alice.
Great.
I'm right. Have you been keeping Boxy in check with his beers of Aussies around the world?
Yeah, I've been very lucky. I get to watch all the behind the scenes action when he I just hear him randomly talking and I turn around and then I realise it's him doing his drink review. But yeah,
I'm as big as LeBron over here now. Nothing happened. We were so successful at UNLV this morning that Caro's been recruited, actively recruited. Nothing happened before we got there though. So talk about that.
So what else are you up to for, I guess, until the next podcast next Wednesday? Are you doing anything else? And I know you said San Diego.
Yeah, so we got Friday night college football and then Monday night NFL.
NBA as well.
A couple NBA games in there too.
NBA, we've got Mighty Ducks.
I know Boxy's going to be seeing the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I'll be watching my glorious king, greatest to ever do it. Pretty keen about that one.
I hear he's going to be out that game.
Yeah, not funny.
Well, we hope
there's likely to be a highly competitive game of street ball on the Venice Beach courts featuring myself and Alice. So that's good.
Well, hopefully we get footage of that and anything else. Be sure to stay tuned to the YouTube channel over here to see all the adventures that these lucky people get up to. I am a bit jealous, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to 2 years' time when the trip is on again, and hopefully we can join you guys.
As far as the election goes, Woods, not too much to report.
Yeah, we're seeing Donald Trump is in the lead at the moment. I'm actually got it on in the background. I know Lorenzo and I were talking about it beforehand, and we're watching it with a keen eye, seeing what happens all the time. But is it really quite like talking about the US election, talking about the US? I mean, it is election day. It'd be remiss of me not to bring it up. How's it been? Just actually being over there during the US election?
We've been inside all day, so we haven't really seen too much. We got back to the hotel about an hour ago. Most of us chucked on the TV and started paying attention to it. We've had a couple of people driving down the strip, tooting horns and all sorts of stuff, but we haven't seen too much today.
A lot of ads on TV, not a huge amount of presence around the street. As Betty just said, some people kind of tooting their horns and things, but it's been I don't know if Vegas is the best example of American engagement with this election. They're a little bit distracted in this part of the world with other things. But it's certainly, you can certainly feel the presence, but it probably wasn't as I guess omnipresent as I might have thought it would be.
Be honest, Woods, the best conversations and promotion we've heard about the elections come from the mouth of our Uber drivers. So
Yeah.
whatever side they're on, it's good to talk to them each time. That's been pretty lopsided, to be honest.
Yep.
One way lopsided.
Lorenzo and Josh, have you got any questions?
Given the fact that I'm watching this entire thing on a 7-second delay.
No, not really. No, really, just have fun.
Hopefully they stay safe out there, and we get to speak to them.
Yes, please
back
stay
in
safe.
in a couple of weeks. Keep us posted.
Simone is currently talking
Just make sure Boxy doesn't overdo it on the whole thing. Just to make sure that that's.
Yeah, well, it's 7
he doesn't
seconds till
overdo it.
Lorenzo realizes that I'm speaking. Apparently.
Please come back in one piece. That's all we ask.
And
Such a big delay.
the barman here is coached baseball
Ah,
in Glen Ira and Malvern.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
talk about a small world. Those two are just catching up and talking Aussie baseball. So
so did they actually recognize each other, or?
Very small world.
no, he just recognised the accent and then asked us where we were from. He lived in Australia for some time and he coached baseball there. So and they know a lot of mutual friends and contacts. So
Yep.
they're just catching up as we speak.
Definitely is a small world.
Speaking of Australian culture, it was impressive walking out of the Golden Knights game the other day and walking past a pub or a bar and seeing the AFLW on a screen. I think the 6 of us that were there all stopped and watched it, and we kind of semi-created a crowd with a couple of Americans trying to explain it.
It was like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the TV.
Yeah,
It was unbelievable.
Ah.
it was good fun. And Boxy was happy because his Hawks got up. So it was good to be able to watch that, I guess.
Ball.
Yeah,
nationally.
$1 million. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But I also noticed.
The only thing that matters in football is the McClellan Trophy.
I also noticed on the Instagram yesterday was Davin was at the ice. It was the college basketball. Sorry, the college basketball. You guys were all huddled around his screen just like this, watching the race, the big race.
That was great.
Yep.
Did you manage to get a bit of funds increase, or were you able to bet over there?
We can confirm that the race does not stop this nation, but it does stop the other one. We didn't bet on it here. Dav won money.
Only because my wife remembered that I always pick number 10 and 11 in the cup because it's my birthday.
Yep.
And because 10 was scratched, she locked in 11 for me. Didn't have to ask. So she knows me well. And I won $77 because she only bet $1 each way. So thought, geez, at least $5. I'm looking at $500 here. And
I mean,
$77.
$10 each way could have funded, another nice meal or a sporting event.
Maybe.
It could have funded the $400 wine.
Yeah.
Not to be. I'll take 77. I'll take that.
I also tried to grow the game at the hockey. The Collingwood chant went as well as the Melbourne Cup does over here. You know what does go well over here, boys, though? It's a certain person called Ray Gun. We get identified as Ray Gun wherever we go. And
Ray Gun has broken through.
we're Ray Gun fans who love rugby, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's how Americans think of Australians.
Too
So-
many Queenslanders and New South Welshmen having good times in Vegas. No one knows about the AFL. Everyone knows about rugby.
There is video of Boxy speculating possibly doing a kangaroo jump with an American,
We'll see that in the next installment of our video diaries.
which is quite funny. So the Americans do recognise us, unfortunately, as the ray gun country, which
Yep.
is not great.
We worked pretty hard for a good reputation and she ruined it. But
I
anyway,
mean,
she's an
it
Olympian,
just
so
goes to show it takes seconds, it takes minutes to ruin a good reputation, and that breaks the heart knowing that we're there. But you're also touring Dodger Stadium next week, or is that the
They
week
remember
after?
we exist, yeah.
Yeah.
They might
Depends-
still be on the piss.
Depends how the hangover's going.
Well, hopefully you can, because it was a great win. Unfortunately, they got the winner game early for you guys, so then you couldn't watch it in Vegas. But it was still a good win. Come from behind win, and we'll be discussing that a bit later. But is there anything else you guys want to bring up or discuss before we let you guys go and celebrate a little bit more in Vegas?
Oxy was identified as a Padres fan after doing a Collingwood chant, which was an interesting thing to try and work out why that was the case.
Exactly. What's it? Exactly. Mate.
Is there a player called Collingwood on the Padres? We'll have to wait and see on that one.
We still don't know, but it was an interesting experience. Consumption of alcohol is very different here, and yeah.
And the alcohol itself is served in much bigger servings, as is everything else.
Because it's like water.
Not sports related, but the Las Vegas Sphere is potentially one of the best things you ever do in your life. So
I forgot to mention that. I did see that.
Yeah.
How was seeing you two there?
Probably one of the best things I've ever done in my life. It was insane.
So Australia needs to get a sphere, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
they're pretty cheap, I hear as well.
The coffee hasn't improved since the last time I was here, but it has doubled in price. So
Please send over coffee as soon as possible.
Had I put money on Knight's Choice, I might have been able to fly over there express and bring you coffee. Unfortunately,
nice choice.
The Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, Harold Holt getting a bit of love as well. We've learned a lot about sports and how they're managed and run over here, and social media as well. It was really good to chat with the Knights and with you and LV today. We've been very lucky in that sense. It's not just been have a massive party, watch some sport and get piss tripped by any stretch at all. A lot of it has been, we learn a lot of things, we take them back, and I've myself have learned about 20 things that we could take back to extra time and we could take back to work and everything. So, it's made the trip really worthwhile. We do miss you guys though.
Well, we miss you as well. But we can say it's lucky that we actually decided to do this way rather than live in the studio, because one of us has COVID. So if you can tell which one.
One that's on mute.
The one that's on mute, the one that is going like that. So it was kind of lucky we went for the virtual thing. But it's good to see you and good to have the chat. And I'm sure you guys can go back to your gambling or whatever you're doing in Vegas.
We're going to go hit some golf balls.
We're going to top golf.
Oh,
nice. Lovely.
Well, I can't wait to see the videos. Make sure you get a video of Davin from the behind the scenes golf baron. Show you how it's done.
Proving that all the shooting I was doing was on camera and not actual golf course.
But we'll let you guys go. We'll let you guys go, and we'll see you guys later as we discuss more about the Australian side of sports and what's happening on our soil. But thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to next week, where you'll probably be in LA on Venice Beach or something, joining us in. We'll have to
from the Venice Beach courts, having just holding court. That's what it's going to be.
Well, thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you. Get better, Josh.
See you later,
Thank you. Cheers. Be back in one piece when we see you, yeah?
I spent the entire time listening to that on the YouTube stream because I got absolutely nothing, and at the moment Josh is just he's just circling.
He's all right for me, so
Josh.
He's all right for us. Can you hear each other?
Fine,
that's the question.
Please. I absolutely can.
I can't hear
see
him.
you, Lorenzo. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
I can hear him through the YouTube, but I don't want to be having two different sets of noises at the moment. Should I leave and come back, or you just need to do something? I've got
Very
all sorts of
strange.
issues here.
Your computer always seems to have an abundance of issues, Lorenzo.
He is coming up here on the YouTube, by the way. So I've got the YouTube tab open. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just responding to text message. But as we do, let's just talk about this is why we play.
Do it like this.
This is Sheila Laxon. Made the decision. It was very hard to decide what we should go with, and in the end I went with that because it's the second cup as a trainer, and third, involvement with the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah.
Or winning a Melbourne Cup, as I think Lorenzo and I will be able to talk about here. So the first cup she won was back in 2001 with Ethereal. I shouldn't say on Ethereal, with Ethereal. And the third involvement was back in 1988, where her husband's horse, Laurie Laxon, won, and she was involved by doing track work with it, Empire Rose.
Yes.
So, just an amazing, and you hear all the stories that come out from the Melbourne Cup and the winners, and I think this is another one where it's such a thing where you didn't even think about it. It wasn't really talked about or heard pre that, but then, yeah, it's come out and gone, okay, great. Leading into it's kind of a disjointed thing. Sorry, I had to respond to a text message, and I've got to make a phone call, and I'll do that in the darts section. I'll put myself on mute with these two going. But I've gone the Weekly Wonder is another Melbourne Cup, and it's Robbie Dolan. Yep. Another amazing story, and I call him the Voice. For those that don't know, he actually auditioned for The Voice a couple of years ago, and that has been circulating ever since he won it. But it was an amazing ride on Knight's Choice, an amazing race. But if you actually watched, and they did it after the race, they highlighted where Knight's Choice was throughout the race, and you could actually see it was kind of stuck in traffic for a bit. You had another horse go when it was about to go and take that run, and it looked like it was over, but Robbie was just able to maneuver the horse and position itself in a great way that in the end, I think I said it was like 9 horses with 50, 100 meters to go. You saw this 9-horse wall, and it's actually, this is actually a good one. It's not just 1 horse or 2 horses steaming home. In the end, it was 1 horse steaming home. It was, I mean, incredible. It was a slight photo finish, but it wasn't quite. But yeah, what can you tell me about the race, Lorenzo, as we move into horse racing?
Yeah, so it was an interesting finish, wasn't it? We had, as you said, 9 horses coming down as they get to about that 100-meter mark. And honestly, with the exception of Zardozi, I didn't have any of those horses. So I'm looking at this race as they come down the straight, and I'm thinking, how is it that these horses are the ones that's actually finding out at the finish? Because I didn't have, again, with the really exception of Zardozi, any of them really factoring in this race. But Knight's Choice, I mean, it's a brilliant story. Shayla Laxton, as you mentioned, they were quite confident that this horse would run well in this race, and no one else was really buying that, to be honest.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few different elements to this story. The Shayla Laxton thing, which goes back to Empire Rose in 1988 and Ethereal in 2001. Both horses didn't win those races by massive margins either. But when Knight's Choice emerged, it looked like at the sort of the 100-meter mark that it was going to be the one. But Warp Speed, the Japanese raider, also came flying after it. I didn't quite get there. So it was quite the interesting edition of the Melbourne Cup. More or less rank outsider. Sort of different odds depending on where you were exactly looking at. It was anywhere from about 60 to 1, about 100 to 1. I think it was 300 to 1.
I was going to say there was other places, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a bit sort of all over the place from on the betting of exactly how big of an outside it was. But absolutely no one had this horse really factoring in at the finish, and it finished the strongest. And you actually look at its form. It had run consistently throughout the spring in Group 1s, but nowhere near really. I needed to bring that up. I'm going to try.
I must admit, I looked that up, and somebody was saying, how did this get a run? And you look at the run, and it wasn't. I think it was fifth out of 15th, and the last ones before that it didn't really factor into it. But it just goes to show that the Melbourne Cup is one of those races where, I mean, Prince of Penzance proved it. Prince of Penzance, like that proved it. Like the favourites rarely win, and I steered clear of anything under $10 because those are the ones that people are just throwing the money on that deflates those, inflates the other prices. And I was like, I went Land Legend, and that run was it was one of those things where I just went, okay, halfway through it's finding a position, and I just wasn't happy. and then as it ended the straight, it just, yeah, it showed that my intuition was right there, and yeah, we moved on. But it was a good run, and I think that's what I love about the Melbourne Cup is you always get the stories, and it was such a good story for that, for everyone involved, and not just like one or the other. So
yeah, but just going back to what you were saying on, you always need a bit of luck in, particularly in the straight, and those first two across the line probably got the best luck, had the gap to run into on the inside. But a lot of these sort of favoured runners, Vauban fails at the Melbourne Cup again. My tip, one smooth operator, wasn't really in the finish. Was probably got too far back, and
really.
Buckaroo as well, too far back coming down the outside. Perhaps wasn't the quickest way home. Just again on the form, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 run preparation this spring. Group 1 Underwood for these are night choice finishing 9th. Group 1 Turnbulls, last of the 16, 14th in the Caulfield Cup, then goes to the Bendigo Cup a week before the main 2-mile handicap at Flemington and runs 5th. So that's 5th in a Group 3 Bendigo Cup. Beaten by about more than 5 lengths. So again, not really one. So anywhere from about $60 to $90 to $101. Absolutely no chance. But it was a great ride from Dolan, a great training performance from Laxon, who's been stationed up on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland for some time now, and gets the job done.
Well, it also goes to show that the race is one all about. It's those stories within the race and the positions and the movements, and being able to get the luck, I guess, is another way. It's one of those things where, going back to the winner, and I mentioned it earlier, it was just that amazing timing and the Robbie Dolan knowing when to actually make those moves to put itself in the best position to make that strike. And going along with Warp Speed, it's one of those where I think next year you're going to see no horse at $100. I think we saw it when Prince of Penzance won it. That the following year there was no horse in $100 because everybody was making sure that, hey, if it happens again, and all the prices went down to about $80 or $70. So I don't know what it is, and I'm amazed that I'm glad in a way that it's not the favorite, because I'm glad that it was an outsider. You get that story, you get the happy story. But I guess moving away from the Cup, because everybody's going to be speaking about the Cup, but I just wanted to mention a few other things before we go on the other races that you'll mention. But the race after the Melbourne Cup. Now, Josh, you being a Carlton fan, you mentioned earlier, I asked you the question, but I'm disappointed. You're a Carlton fan, and you had the Carlton Quinella of Cotigio and Basisto, named after two Carlton icons. Now, Vin Cotigio, the iconic hairdo. If you don't know who Vin Cotigio is, look it up. You'll see that the kind of the fro. And Peter Basisto, who won both.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the same. Yeah. Absolute legend of the Carlton Football Club, for sure.
And we also had Peter Basisto, who won both Marking Goal of the Year in 1981. And he's one of only 2 players to have done so. Michael Mitchell from Richmond also did in 1990. Now, that was the little bit of a...
That was a little fun sort of result.
Fun result that was mentioned by the former Collingwood president, Eddie Maguire. And he kept mentioning if Carlton fans didn't get on that, they'd never get on anything. So I'm sorry, Josh. And that, but some other quick stats: the James McDonald and Ben Melham won 2 races, which was the most yesterday, and Anthony and Sam Friedman was also 2 winners as trainers. And the other thing I noticed was the race 1 Hayes trifecta. So if anybody follows the Hayes training stable, then they would have got on that and probably picked up quite a bit. I think it was worth. But apart from that, that's Melbourne Cup Day has been run and won. And we now look on to Thursday or tomorrow as this is going to air, and Oaks Day and Saturday's Champions Day. Lorenzo, have we got any? I can't say insider mail, but have you got anything? And talk us through these days because they are.
Any thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 2 days left of the carnival. Thursday, always an interesting day, Oaks Day. They've moved the Oaks. We talk about this a lot in my family, though I've never shared this publicly. That when I was in primary school, the Oaks would be run at a sort of like 3:30, which was right after school finished.
Yeah.
And because my dad, who was a big horse racing fan, took annual leave the whole Cup week. He would pick me up from school and we would listen to the Oaks coming back in the car, and we did that for several years. No such thing anymore because they just keep moving this race later and later. It's at 5:10.
I thought it used to be at 5 o'clock in the last few years.
Yeah, so it's sort of just got slowly later and later in the evening, which is probably makes a bit more sense, to be honest. Get everyone home from work so they can watch it. If not, they're going to the races itself. And then Champions Day, which has been a really success when they sort of first did this last year with those 3 Group 1, 3 branding of those races, all under the sort of champions motto of the Champion Sprint, the Champions Mile, the Champion Stakes. Fields just come out for those races as they always do on a Wednesday. So just look, sort of first glance, Giga Kick, Bella and Patina look like the main 2 in the sprint. In the mile, it's Mr. Brightside, another Will, who was a good winner on Derby Day for Jamie Carr, and also Pride of Jenny. And the interesting story with Pride of Jenny is Declan Bates has been dropped off Pride of Jenny, and Ben Mellon will now ride it in the race on Saturday. And the Champion Stakes, another interesting story. Without a fight, last year's Melbourne Cup winner is back first up to run in that 2,000 metre race that was formerly the McKinnon Stakes, of course. Duke de Sessa is also a big name in that race as well. And Via Sistina, of course, the Cox Plate winner, which I wrote an article about, as well as other horses that have been very big in the spring, a Tissue and Deny Knowledge as well. So that's the rest of the carnival. 4 Group 1s to go. Plenty of other interesting races as well. We need a bit more thinking time. I couldn't just tell you exactly who's going to win all of these races right at the moment. Oh, Broadsunny, of course, I should have mentioned him, is running in the Champions Mile as well. And Amelia's Jewel, who was very narrowly beaten on Derby Day as well. So that's where things stand in horse racing. I did want to say, if the USA trip is roughly the same time in 2026 as it is in 2024, we're going to have to find some way to get over to the iconic Breeders' Cup meeting, which was on Saturday and Sunday.
I'm sure if we all go,
for the last 2 years.
I'm sure if we all go, we can arrange it so we kind of make a detour.
Yep. The thing is,
Sure.
I'm not 100% sure where it's going to be. It may even be out at New York somewhere, because they're rebuilding the track out there, Belmont Park. So there's sort of thinking there. The track for that meeting always, well, I say always rotates. It's going to be held in the same place out in California than it was this year. So we just have to wait a little bit. Hopefully, they announce that actually in the next few months. They usually announce it sort of just under 2 years in advance of where this meeting is going to be held, with multiple Group 1s, a big international presence. And it's why very few American horses come out here, and no Australian horses ever won a Breeders' Cup race. It's because those 2 central meetings in those countries, the Breeders' Cup in the US and Flemington, the Melbourne Cup Carnival here, is run on the same weekend, or it's on the same weekend as the Derby Day. So the Melbourne Cup doesn't quite hit the same in America as it does in Europe.
Well, as I think they said, it didn't quite stop the nation, and it stopped
it doesn't
them.
quite stop the US. It was very amusing to watch those things they put up on social media. By the way,
It's been amazing, and
yelling at their phones.
I've got to just see what. Let's just go through.
Middle of what was a college basketball game, whatever it was they were watching.
They were.
Oh, it's a long race too. A long race. So there for a while. Was it 3,200 meters? The race?
Yeah, 3,200 meters. Usually 3 minutes, roughly.
Yeah.
But
the other thing I wanted to mention is the YouTube is to the. There we go. That's better. Just trying to different things here on the screen. Also wanted to mention a good crowd of about 91,000, a little more than 91,000 out there, and a big crowd also on Derby Day. My dad was actually there for the first time on Derby Day in about 30 years, I reckon. He was a +1 for a sort of in a marquee somewhere, right by the winning post. So he was out there. A long day. As it always is going out to Flemington from people sort of where I am, which is out in the sort of southeastern suburbs. It's a bit of a ride on the train. It's a good crowd. It's good to see that there's a bit more resonance in the Melbourne Cup than maybe has been over the last couple of years. Very quite the story with the winner. Quite the story with those in behind it as well at the finish. Not quite the way we would have expected this race to pan out, but it panned out that way. Good to see the big crowd there, and we probably get, assuming Melbourne keeps it up with good weather as it has been. It has been on Melbourne Cup Day actually for quite a number of years now. We really haven't had a rain effect on Melbourne Cup since about the start of the 2010s, I reckon. There's been overcast days, obviously, but nothing terrible otherwise. So hopefully they keep it up and keep going through there for what's one of the, probably from an attendance point of view, will be one of the biggest Flemington carnivals in about 6 years or something. So that'll be great to see.
Well, moving from horse racing, one of your loves, to another one of your loves. Yeah. I'm going to go on mute here because it is you and Josh's time to shine. Just give me a call. I'll still be here, don't worry. Just let me know when you're done, but take the reins.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
I'll start.
Just give me. Here we go.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say,
yes,
we'll talk about Header and Whitlock in just a moment, but I want to start off with the Players' Championship 30. So all Players' Championships are now done and dusted. Players' Championship 30. So Josh Rock was the winner against Johnny Clayton, who had a really good game. It was a really amazing final. He just lost that after a late surge from Clayton, won 8-7, so deciding leg there. And the story of it all was Chizzy with a 9 data, which is amazing. It was a really clean one as well, not one that's like near a wire or anything, just straight at it. So versus William O'Connor there, so that's all done and dusted. But move on to our Aussies, Header and Whitlock. Unfortunately, they both miss out on the slam, Lorenzo.
We're probably going to be on a slight delay, so I do apologise. I'm literally listening off the YouTube stream here, so there's probably going to be a bit delayed. It's probably like a crossover when you go over.
That's
the
right.
News coverage just crosses over, so I do apologise. Josh, my computer's not working. But yes, no Whitlock. No real surprise for Whitlock, if we're being honest. Lost 5-0, I think, was to James Wade. But the big surprise is Damon Hettu, who's more or less one of the top-ranked players not to be at this tournament, out 5-1 in the second to last match to Ryan Joyce, who goes on to qualify himself. Averaged 103.46 in that match, Damon, but does not win more than the single leg, which sort of brings me to, I feel like, the Grand Slam, it would probably be a bit better with the slight change in the qualifying criteria. I'm not a big fan of the fact that they've done that they bring in 8 spots through the through that qualifier. I feel like it should be just through the either the TB Majors or those other European Tour or Players Championship events.
Yeah.
It would also be great to see. So this tournament sort of lost a bit of its shine since the BDO folded, but I think it would be great if they brought in just a few more sort of entries from different levels. So the Lakeside, which I'm going to talk about very briefly at the end, the Motor Super Series, which I know you're a big fan of, as am I. You get champions from there. You get champions from all these different other sort of places, the World Seniors, the JDC, the ADC.
I can talk for a bit. What is it?
That's going to be held at the Motor Super Series.
I can talk for a bit. What is it?
Studios or arena they've got there in Portsmouth. So that would be really great to see. Now, I'm going to get in a moment to ask you for some predictions because Grand Slam begins Sunday.
That'd still be bowling, wouldn't they?
The very first match, and he hasn't got away once again. The draw hasn't done him much favours. It never seems to do so. He's got Josh Rock, Jan van Veen, and Wessel Nyman. That's probably as good as a group as it gets. Group B as well with Nobbert, Schindler, Menzies, and Bo Greaves as well, and also Group D, the All English affair of Dave Chisnell, Ross Smith, Richie Edhouse, and Connor Scott is going to be that. Those two particular D and H, you could honestly see anyone finishing first in that group, second, third, and fourth. So it's a bit all over the place there. Was I going to say anything else? Have any thoughts on what we might see in Wolverhampton at just the group stage, Josh?
Yeah, I'm just looking through the groups now. I'll just go to your one first, your man, Stephen Bunting, of course. Well, Josh Rock, he's in some good form after his win against Johnny Clayton, as I just mentioned before. Van Veen's not going too bad as well. And Wizzle Nudge, we haven't really seen much of him on the PDC stage, but I think Bunting goes through on that one. That's in Group H. Overall, looking across the other brackets, I think Humphrey should get pretty clear in Group A. He's got James Wade, Mickey Mansell, and John Rodriguez in that one, so he should be pretty clear there. Noppert, Group B will be really interesting, I think. Danny Noppert, Martin Schindler, Cameron Menzies, and Bo Greaves. That's the four in that group. That should be a really interesting matchup. Bo Greaves obviously has played some tremendous starts recently and should be looking to get a few wins on the board. Do you have anyone that you're seeing there who go through? Because that's probably one of the toughest groups I'm seeing in Group B.
Yeah, so I think Bo's actually a very good chance to get through that group. Yeah, that's probably it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Cameron Menzies has played some good stuff. Martin Schindler as well has done well on the Euro Tour, and Danny Noppert's the seed. So that one's probably the toughest, along with Group H and D. Like I said, they're probably the three groups of death, if you will.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree for sure. I'd have to agree. It'll be interesting to see how that sort of goes in the second round, quarterfinal, semi-finals, and final, which is finals best of 31 legs. That's certainly going to be. It'll be a long tournament for sure. But do you have any early predictions on A, who will get through to the group stage, and B, possibly to the final?
Yeah, so I've had Luke Littler and Luke Humphreys sort of penciled in for this tournament for a little while now, to be honest. I feel like those sort of that group stage, especially with Littler, with the sort of group stage, which he's familiar with from the Motor Super Series days, and the short format into eventually a longer format, really suits him. And they wouldn't meet until a final because they're sort of on opposite sides of the draw, assuming they still use the same format that they have for years now. I've seen nothing that says they won't do that. Other predictions. Oh, it's tough. I could also. Where do we go? Yeah, so there's going to be a few, even just those matchups. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say, I will say this. And Luke Littler, he's in Group F with Dimitri Vandenberg, King Barry, and Lawrence Alagan, who's been one of the best Asian players for ages. So that matchup, whenever that happens, because they don't do the sort of the draw for later in the tournament until those first few matches are done. Whenever that match will play, it will be much watched sport for in the next week. Well, these group matches will probably all be done by the time we're back here next week as well, which will be good. So we can always split our predictions into two, basically, who gets through the group stage and then who gets through the knockout stage when we eventually get there. It's just going to be so tough because almost every tournament now is just it's wide open. You feel like there's quite a few at the top who are favoured, and quite a few that are perhaps in the lower group. But you do know that surprises can happen quite regularly. We see it on the Players' Championship scene, and even on the European Tour. It's just doing it on the television screen that's makes it so tough. I sort of just want to sort of end on a sort of punchy note. Give me some predictions. Humphreys Wave A. I could definitely see both groups getting out of Group B.
Yep.
Maybe or Menzies. It's hard to tell. Definitely see Gates as a good chance.
Tough group,
as I said. Group D, I mean, who knows? I like Ross Smith, but he didn't help me much in the European Championships last week. Where else?
Yeah, for sure.
Smith to Decker probably the best place to be. Vandenberg and Littler, best place to go left. Same for MVG and Gary Anderson. By the way, Noah Len van Leuven's got an absolutely disastrous draw what was playing MVG and Gary Anderson.
Yes, that's going to be
and then Stephen Bunting.
It's a tough matchup for her.
Wetzel Nyman, let's go with that.
Yeah. Tough
there
matchup.
We go. I think I've run through
but for me,
16. We'll see. Yeah, it's tough. yeah, there's a few here which make sense, like Humphreys Wade or Gary MVG, and there's a few others which are a bit harder to predict. You can speak now, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think Pool C and Pool D were those qualifiers. It'll be really interesting to see how far some of those guys can go. Yeah, as I said, the likes of a Leonard Gates or Dean Barry, who knows, or Mickey Mantle, like names we haven't really seen much on the PDC stage. It'll be interesting to see how far they can go. Connor Scott as well, who has been on the Super Series as well, as I mentioned earlier. Like I mentioned, I think last week, seeing these guys who have not been too featured on the TV stage coming in and getting an opportunity to play in this tournament, the Grand Slam, will be interesting to see how far they can go. Can they give some of the big seeded names such as Humphreys, Smith, Van Gerwen, Cross, Chisel, Bunting, Vandenberg, and Noppert are your top 8 respectively, to see if can give a little upset there. Could give maybe. Well, if you look at some of the matchups, could Mickey Mansell beat Luke Humphreys, for example? I know it's quite unlikely, but you just never know, because we talked about it before. It's just so open these days, and especially if it's a longer format or shorter format, you just never know how these players will go about it. But really interesting to see if we get a few upsets, because that's always nice to have, instead of just having the seeded players going along as they do. But interesting to see if there's any upsets. Do you see any potential upsets throughout the groups at all?
There are a few. Bogroves could be considered upset in any game she plays. Costco's been one to watch, I think, sort of at that lower level. So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes a few surprises. Michael Smith's one that we know is struggling, is defending prize money one at the 2022 Grand Slam, which was his first major win. So he could be under a bit of pressure. Who knows what form of Dimitri Vandenberg shows up, and same can be said for MVG and Stephen Bunting. So there's good chances for upsets. I do want to mention one more thing off the darts, unless you've got anything else you want to talk about with regards to the Grand Slam, Josh.
I don't have really anything else much to add. It would just be interesting to see these different matchups, which will be live on Sunday on KO Sports and Fox Sports as well. So looking forward to these matchups starting on Sunday.
No Australians, but just lastly on the dart segment, I've mentioned in the show, was it last week? Yes, it was last week, that there's sort of been this split in darts in sort of the mid-90s, and we've had 2 different World Championships, formerly run by the BDO, now run by the WGF, over at the Lakeside County Club there in England, and the draw for that was actually done this morning. We actually have 5 Australians, so this is very much a semi-professional, slightly better than amateur, I'd say, level darts, if you will. So 5 Australians actually, those in the top 3 seeds. Danny Porter, Brandon Weaning, and Peter Machin. I hope I've got all those names pronounced correctly. So that draw's done. So 3 of the top 5 in the seeds there, again, Australians. So we'll be hoping for the best for them. 2 people I quite like, Matthew Edgar, and of course the legend of the sport, Paul Lim, will also be there, and Bo Greaves as well on the women's side, defending the her WGF World Championship crown. The PDC make it out, so you can only play one of these 2. So a decision has to be made. Do you go to the PDC edition? Do you go to the WDF edition of the World Championship? If you qualify for both, which many of these players do. So someone like Bo Greaves will go to Lakeside, whether people like Fallon Sherrick and Nolan Van Leuven, who's qualified for both, will go to Alexandra Palace and the PDC World Championship. They've also got a boys and girls draw there as well, and they've expanded it at the moment. So that's interesting to keep an eye on, just to see how some Australians do there. That's all. I think we can bring you back in, Woodsy.
I am back now. I've been listening for the last bit, but as we move from darts to cricket, and Monday night, or Monday, I should say, it was a day-nighter. Australia-Pakistan chasing 203. One with 8 wickets down. It was a kind of an intense finish, if you will. I think I was at a wedding, so I wasn't watching it too closely. However, when I did tune it in and it was 20 runs to go and 8 wickets down, I'm there going, "Oh, this isn't actually as easy as I thought it would be." With their, 203, usually you'd say is an easy chase down for Australia in a one-dayer. But they were given a bit of a scare. But Pat Cummins, 33 runs off 32 balls, just I guess brought it home and saved the sinking ship. And Stark 3 for 32, but going back to Pat Cummins, I think he scored 2 for 39 with the ball. So he had 2 for 39 with the ball, I should say. So impressive there. But anything to take away from you guys?
Well, I think for me, as you said,
Well, it's good to have cricket back.
203.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think chasing 203, as you said, early wickets are always key. So they did that, and again, Pat Cummins was sensational. Did well off the ball and the bat, and doing what he did. I think it was a game where he was with, I'm not sure who he batted with, but had a similar sort of role and just guide them home. Because again, they had so much time. I think it was done within 35 or so.
Yeah,
overs,
they had
but-
about 100 balls remaining, I'd say.
Yeah. So again, lots of time, but also lack of wickets in hand. So you got to, in those situations, you got to play it really, really carefully. Just like no silly runs, or a run out's even worse. But no, that was a good result for them. So, and also we've got the Victoria South Australia One Day Cup game going on.
And I think somebody just watching what is happening right now. I've got it on the other screen here. I think somebody might have just so we got Peter Hanscom is on 99 potentially. He's on 100. He just made it. Literally just said.
now.
I was wondering what was going on because the both Batmen were in the middle, but he's on the other end. We've got Merlot. He's on 48 not out, so we're 270 for 4. We batted first. South Australia won the toss, decided to let us in. Yeah, so Peter Hanscom has just got 100 in that, so some positive signs for Victoria. As I'm just looking at seeing the scorecard, if there's any standouts that I need to mention. I don't know how they were dismissed or anything, so I can't speak of that. But I love this system, and I'm hoping it stays for the whole thing of you play the Sheffield Shield match and then you play a one-day alongside it. I like that format. I didn't like the format a couple of years ago where it was one-day cup and they would have about a month or 3-week tournament with that, and then it just seemed a bit disjointed for the summer. I don't know
I agree.
about you guys, but I felt like this is the way to do it. This is the old school style. You go into state, you play the state in Sheffield Shield, and then a day or two later you play the one-dayer. Get it over and done with that way, rather than all being in one place, and you can then actually see your team play.
Yeah, that's what happened last week against New South Wales. So we won the Sheffield Shield game, and then later on the Friday Junction Oval, we played the one day and lost quite heavily. I think over 100 runs to New South Wales. So again, it's sort of a series there of 2 games. So we're 1-1. Let's see how we go this week against South Australia. Currently been playing at Karen Rotten Oval. See how we go.
So I'm just quickly seeing to see if it was. It looks like it was played throughout. I don't know what the style was last year, but I do like this style. As you said, last week it was New South Wales, so I'm hoping they continue it down the line. Now, obviously, I don't know soccer because Matildas beat Germany last week. We spoke about that, and obviously Ten Hag. I don't know. I haven't followed any of the EPL. I am a Man United supporter, as you can see, but we'll just skip soccer for this week and move straight along to NFL. And Lorenzo, I'll let you take this because you've got some notes that you've written down, and I don't want to talk NFL because Denver lost to Baltimore by quite some margin. I was hoping for a competitive game, so then I could actually talk about, like I did last week, saying, Denver, they haven't played anyone. Well, yeah, Boxy was right. This is the bit you
Yeah,
can
but-
clip up to go, Boxy. Yep, I was wrong. You're right.
Yeah, well, the Broncos didn't win, but a team that did win was the Tennessee Titans. Quite remarkably, actually, only the second win. Every team has got multiple wins now, I think, which is remarkable into and of itself. One in overtime, needed a little bit of extra time, walk-off interception, job done. So the absolutely awful Tennessee Titans now have 2 wins. Mason Rudolph should be our main guy now because he started this game as the starting quarterback. He wasn't the starting quarterback in our first win, but he played the majority of that match and he's looked all right. He hasn't lit the world on fire, but 2017 overtime win. Seattle, Boxy, not quite getting the job done there in overtime. Walk-off touchdown for the Rams gets it done 26-20. Just some other, just sort of general points, just looking at the week that was. Chargers looking good, 27-10 win over the Browns, and looking good for a playoff run. Commanders also continue a very good reign of form, 27-22 win over the Giants. Very much a team no one had much hopes on coming into this season, and yet very much looking like they'll be a team you won't want to face come the playoffs. Another thing I wanted to mention, this was amusing. So, Panthers also get, so that was the other team that was struggling, 23-22 win over the Saints. Now, how do I bring this up properly? It was Halloween in between the last time we were doing this. It was also All Saints Day. So now I know he won't do it himself. But the Twitter account for Pope Francis put out a tweet regarding regarding All Saints Day, and they used the hashtag Saints. The only problem is that's a hashtag used by New Orleans, and it has the New Orleans Saints logo after it. So that tweet has way more engagement than any of the Pope's usual tweets. Even though it was not only supposed to be talking about the great Catholic saints, it devolved into a conversation about the New Orleans Saints, the fact that they were 7-point favourites, and they didn't even get the job across the line. So not even the Holy Father could help New Orleans, who are struggling a little bit at the moment. So I found that quite amusing. What else? Oh, Falcons. A bit of an upset over the Cowboys, but perhaps not as much of an upset as it should have been because the Cowboys aren't playing good at the moment, which means the world is in a decent place. So Cowboys losing, Titans winning is a good way to start Monday for me. The Eagles had a win over the Jaguars, but the big highlight was Saquon Barkley's sort of backwards hurdle thing that he did, which I'll be thinking about now for a long, long time. One of the best things is seen. Not even Madden would allow you to do that. It would seem that improbable, but that was probably the best highlight of that game. It was like a 10-yard run, but easily the best highlight in that Eagles win. Lions, again, looking good. 24-14 win out there at Lambeau against Green Bay. The Vikings had a win on Sunday Night Football, and then Monday Night Football, which is a Tuesday out here. The Kansas City Chiefs and Tampa Bay played a very good game. It was finished right as the Melbourne Cup started, and by the time the Melbourne Cup was finished, the Buccaneers had scored a game-tying touchdown to set the game to overtime. Unfortunately for them, I will say that the Chiefs, well done to the coin, by the way, coming in clutch once again for Kansas City, giving them the ball in sudden death overtime. They drive down the field and get the game-winning touchdown. Just want to look at the Bills lead the AFC East. So the Chiefs remain undefeated, remarkably. I just find the fact they're usually star quarterback probably isn't quite playing at the level we're expecting of him, but they are 8-0. In the AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens at the top of that division. The AFC South, the Texans take a bit of a backward step after going down to the Jets, remarkably, who didn't play well at all and yet still got across the line in that game. Thank goodness, by the way, match coming up on Friday, so Thursday Night Football in America, Ravens, Bengals, is much better because some of these Thursday night games, and Amazon's paying all this money and they're not getting much out of it. The NFL sort of half forgetting about Thursday night, sort of like the AFL doing the same with their Sunday time slots throughout the most recent season. In the NFC, Commanders lead the East, the Cardinals lead the West, the NFC North is led by the Lions, and the Falcons, remarkably, are 6-3 and have a lead there in the NFC South, which is not something that I quite anticipated, to be fair. Yeah, as like I said, every team has at least 2 wins. The Patriots, Raiders, Browns, Titans, Jaguars in the AFC, the Giants, the Saints in the NFC, and the Panthers as well all have exactly 2 wins. Some have played 8, some played 9 with having a bye. They do a sort of odd bye structure in the NFL right now. So that's what's happening. We're about halfway. Well, we are halfway through. Just sort of nominally, it was week 9. Week 10's got that Ravens Bengals game, which should be a better one for the start of the weekend on Friday. Tennessee have got the Chargers, great, at 8:05. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one at a good waking time. And Cowboys Eagles will be the sort of main feature game at that time slot as well. Texans Lions. It's a very, very interesting Sunday night football contest there at Monday lunchtime next week, and the Rams Dolphins play the Tuesday game. Yeah, so that's where things stand at the moment. Detroit and Kansas City both probably remain at the top of the rankings if you want to look at it that way. San Francisco the bye this week, so no need to mention them. Yeah, so a few teams just sort of we're getting into that sort of moving stage. You want to be making sure you're trending well. The other thing I did want to mention as well, though, Derrick Henry. Just for the love of God, Baltimore, don't overrun him. Don't he's leading the league in yards and he's leading the league in carries. And all they brought him here was for a playoff run. And if they give him too much of the ball in the regular season, comes to the postseason, they're playing the Chiefs and he only gets 50 yards and they lose again. It probably would set up sort of this era of Baltimore. So I do. It's just sort of as a message to the good people at the Baltimore Ravens, who's had quite some run with the Tennessee Titans, and they have our formerly best player in almost our entire offense for the last 5 years. Please do not overrun Derrick Henry. You're going to need him in the season at the moment, in the postseason when we get there.
Well, moving from NFL to NBA, and before moving off on NFL, just shout out to the LA Rams versus Miami Dolphins game, which will include extra times the extra timers. So we look forward to seeing some clips from that. But moving to the NBA, I don't have much to discuss because I'm not a real big NBA fan. I will just point out the Cavaliers are still undefeated and Thunder undefeated. So Cavs are 8-0. Thunder are 7-0, as it's still early season, so I'm sure by the time Boxy gets back, there'll be some ability to read out which way teams are going.
Yeah.
And with the NBL, Breakers are on top, followed by the Hawks and Melbourne United, that is. 36ers, Kings, Wildcats, Bullets, my Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, the Jack Jumpers and Taipans. I think the biggest surprise for this, just so early on, is the Jack Jumpers after winning the championship last year and dropping off dramatically. So that is one of the biggest surprises I have seen from the NBL. I'm not paying too much attention, so that's more of a boxy area. But it looks like New Zealand, Illawarra and Melbourne at the moment are the teams to look out for. Who knows what's happening with Southeast Melbourne Phoenix? Who knows what's happening with the Jack Jumpers? As we move on to AFL and AFLW and the McClellan Trophy, as Boxy mentioned earlier, Hawthorn with the $1 million trophy, or the $1 million, I should say, and the trophy. The trophy, it's an actual thing. It sits in AFL House. I walk past it every time I go to work, and I can see. So we'll have Hawthorn there. But the AFLW are now in the finals series, the quarterfinals, the qualifying finals of North Melbourne and Adelaide and Hawthorn and Brisbane. Those two should be cracking games, and I think Hawthorn have been the surprise packet of this year, being the first expansion team to, I think, make a qualifying final. I could be wrong. They're definitely the first one to be so good. But I would like to know if that is true or not. I'm going to make that as fact, and then I'm going to quickly just Google it. But it's fact as I speak right now because I don't know otherwise. But the elimination finals are Fremantle and Essendon and Port and Richmond, which three of those teams, Essendon and Port Adelaide, Richmond. When did Richmond come into the competition? Oh,
I'm not
Question.
sure.
Richmond AFLW entry.
I'm going. Sorry for doing this. I'm there going. This is. I think they might be around the same time as St Kilda, or beforehand. I'm trying to think. I don't think they were an initial team.
Okay. On that. Richmond 2019, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, 2020. 2020.
Yeah, well, they
established 20.
yeah
Season
they
2020.
well I can say now that they weren't the first expansion team into the Hawthorn aren't the first expansion team into the qualifying finals because Richmond haven't been there before, but I think it's a still good effort. And I also know that I think this would be from Lorenzo that they've announced
Yes,
today.
I'm down to this. This is big news coming out literally in just the last couple of hours from Riley Beveridge with the notification on the AFL app, which shows the AFLW Grand Final this year is going to be played at a night time slot. Now, we don't know where it's going to be played, of course. They do leave that to the highest ranked team still left in the competition come Grand Final week. But 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time is when this game is going to occur. I believe it's going to be November 30th. Even though it doesn't mention it in this article here. They've had basically day grand finals all the way through in the AFLW. We know we've had two sort of night. Well, it was night out here in Melbourne. It was twilight when it was played in Perth, wasn't it? So that's the big additional AFLW news over the last sort of week is the McClellan Trophy, obviously, and now the announcement that the AFLW Grand Final will be played at night. Perhaps a sign that about 25 years too late, they might actually move the AFL Grand Final to a better watching time slot and play it at the MCG. So that's where that one stands as well. So be interesting to see what comes out of that. Obviously, Icon Park would presumably host it if it's one of the Melbourne teams left standing. And they've obviously played night games there before. The first ever AFLW game was a night game there at Carlton's home at the Princes Park. So that's the big news from the AFLW announced today. 7:30 p.m. time slot for grand final this year. Maybe, just maybe, that might be forecasting things to come in the men's competition in the next few years. The World Series has wrapped up.
As you can see, the Dodgers.
You're in the Dodgers.
Dodgers won 4-1. They didn't quite get the sweep. They weren't able to get it done last Wednesday, Australian time, when we were doing it. But the Yankees were lucky enough to avoid the sweep. However, they were up 5-1, I think, at one stage.
5-0 in that game.
5-0 and lost it. They bottled it. They choked.
Yeah.
Freeman, as I said, surely would be MVP, and he was hitting a home run in 3 games of the and hopefully Boxy and Dav, Simone, Bodie, Alice, Kira, and all the other extra timers will be able to tour the Dodger Stadium and see the World Series trophy. Get a good photo of it for me so I can see what I'm missing out on. And closer to the shores with baseball, though, the Australian Baseball League kicks off next weekend. The Aces, the Melbourne Aces, will be having a exhibition game at the Melbourne Ballpark this Friday night against the Victorian All-Stars. I will be there in some capacity. I don't know what yet, but I will be there. So I'm looking forward to actually being able to give some indication of how I think the Melbourne Aces will go. It's still an unknown thing, and I think this is the thing with the ABL. It's because it's only a 10 round, so 5 home, 5 away, 6 teams, 4 in the finals. It's very, very open. You can basically be third bottom and make the finals, or you can be fourth, depending on how well your season is going. But I think after about five rounds, it should be an easier thing to see where the season is heading. I still think Adelaide is the team to look out for because they have been in past years the team to beat, or post-COVID era at least. Perth have always been strong. If Melbourne came home late last year, so that's one of the indicators I've got that hopefully they can continue that and start strong this season and build off that. The only problem is if they don't do that, if they do like a repeat of last year, it's going to be a tough one. Hopefully extra time can get down to a few games, who knows. But that's it for the baseball as we move on to just some other stuff that Lorenzo wants to discuss.
So just a couple of dot points. We're pretty much finishing up, unless you want or you Woodsy want to add anything else. We'll finish up in the next 10 minutes or so. Max Verstappen with one of the all-time great drives. Not the biggest F1 fan, and we'll get Bodie. And I don't think they actually race again until about 3 weeks.
End of November.
Las Vegas, yeah. So by the time they actually get back, there won't have actually been a new race. So I'm sure Boxing in particular will be excited to talk about what happened in one weird weekend out there in Brazil at the magnificent Interlagos. Max Verstappen coming all the way back from 17th and having just sort of an odd weekend, all sorts of penalties and issues, but he comes through with a great drive to get over the top of everyone else. There were a full 5 red flags. I was watching their qualifying session because it was in a good time slot, and I was trying to finish a couple of other things that maybe had some sort of imported from my uni course, but that didn't matter because they're literally every time you turned around, someone else was in a wall. Or Lance Stroll had a couple of really shocking moments, and the Aston Martin team did not have a good Sunday. It sort of showed why everyone does qualifying on a Saturday and the race on a Sunday if they can help it. The rain in Brazil forced qualifying and the race to happen on the same day because typically there isn't a great amount of turnaround. So if you crash your car in qualifying for actually getting back around for the race, was a tall order for those teams. And the hockey one I did mention last week, I wanted to watch a bit more of it, and I did. HC Melbourne played against New South Wales on Friday night. The men's got a 4-2 win, and the women's team went down by 6 goals to 1. But the HC Melbourne men's team looking all right at the moment, and have actually got a full win on top of the men's New South Wales Pride top 4 making it through to a finals series. There's only about a month left of this tournament. It only just started, and it's just going to come and go real quick. Undefeated teams at the moment, the Canberra Chill in the men's after 3 games, and the Perth Thunder Six after 4 games in the women's are the two very much teams at the forefront of those particular competitions at the moment. More hockey coming up on 7+ this weekend, so you got to juggle out with all the darts and the horse racing and AFLW. It's just NFL, it's all going on. HC Melbourne takes on Brisbane this week. So this is the team I'm following because obviously from Melbourne, from Victoria. So that's on the 10th of the 11th. That's Sunday. So that's where Hockey One sits at the moment. Get involved. It is heating up. Unless anyone else has anything else to mention. Oh, the other thing I did want to mention is India got beat 3-0 at home in a test series against New Zealand, and this is important because Australia is facing them in a 5-test series at home in the coming months. And I mean that entire result has thrown sort of the World Test Championship, the race for Lords 2025, into a very interesting situation. So that was a big result out on the subcontinent, and Australia might not have the strongest Indian team we've ever seen come down here for some test matches, and the ODIs, of course, is going to be the indicator into the form of the individuals as we get into which should be a good test summer with 5 test matches against a much supported opposition as well. So hopefully the results on Monday, which by the way, Monday before the Melbourne Cup ODI of the MCG should just be a thing that happens now.
I think that's a good thing because most people take it off. Most people take that day off. Unfortunately, I would have gone except for I had a wedding on, and then working the next day. But it was one of those things. Now, obviously, that wraps up for this week. I just want to give a quick shout out to Noah Fisher, who is watching, who did actually comment earlier when the US guys were on, but I wasn't able to get around to that comment because we were stuck in that conversation. But thank you, Noah Fisher, for joining us. One of the extra timers of the past and hopefully of the future as he comes. We're now on a digital form. We're on the online platform for another week. So if you are around knowing you want to talk some soccer or cricket or anything else sports related, please feel free to do so. I'm probably going to get a DM about it now that is working or saying it's all right. But just a quick check on the US politics before we finish up.
Yes.
I see this prediction that I've got is 195 to 117. I'm just going to quickly Google and see what Google says. So it's 188 to 99.
It's important to
according
It's
to
important to note that they don't call the states until after the polling closes, obviously, so they don't manipulate it there.
Yeah.
So there's a full 54 electoral college votes from California, which we know 100% will go to Kamala Harris, but they can't call that yet because there are polls still open there. We're expecting results there about, I think, 3 p.m.
But it looks set to be a close one. I might have put a bit of money on the prediction. I think will win, and
Look, it's still close. There are some odd results here. Trump's leading in Minnesota and Harris is leading in Iowa. It's a bit of a mess at the moment.
you just have to, I think, wait about an hour and see. I think that's the biggest thing, is waiting about an hour or two. You'll see, especially when all the other polling places close, we'll have a better indication. However, that is it for this week for Extra Time. Our first ever Zoom thing. Hope you get accustomed to this. This was the easiest way for me to set up. It is through Discord. And I think we're going to have to keep this Extra Time Discord open for a bit. Might discuss a few sports going on. But until next time, I think this is the best place to say goodbye. For the stream, at least.
Indeed.
And we will see you next week on same sort of platform, I guess, because hopefully they'll be joining us from Los Angeles. If they're not able to join us, it'll just be us three, or hopefully it'll be us three. I don't know what anyone else is doing or up to, so we'll have to wait and see on that one. However, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you if you're watching the VOD of this. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you, Josh. And hopefully we have a winner on Oaks Day and Champions Day.